Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, about 10:15. Beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Had a little technical problem with the computer here, so sorry if I'm a little late. But here we are, and we're going to have a look at, it's an old Judges Guild module, adventure, mini setting, game aid, fantasy game aid is what they called it at the time, called Caverns of Thracia. It's from Jennell Jaquays. Or Jaquays, as Jennell pronounced it, from what I saw in a video where she was talking about her work in the gaming worlds of both tabletop and computers. So, Jaquays. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways over the years, before the internet even, that I sometimes revert back to how I used to pronounce it when I was a younger man. In any event, hey, the Vince himself is in the chat. Thanks for dropping in, Vince. The day yesterday was Jennell Jaquays' day. It is the anniversary of her birth. She's been gone for almost 2 years now, coming up in January when she passed. And we used the day yesterday to honor her and her work in gaming, particular tabletop gaming for some of us, and that's why I wanted to look today at something that she did back in '79. It is here. What do we got here? Boom, Caverns of Thracia, fantasy game aid from Judges Guild back in the day. It often gets touted by people as very innovative. I agree that compared to a lot of the adventures that were available then, which were mostly written to be used as tournament modules and then set up as publicly available adventures for individuals to use with their games at home, because they were written originally, the ones at least produced through TSR and I suppose elsewhere in large part, were meant to be kind of linear, and they were meant to be kind of start here, you go there, you get this thing, you take it to this place, you go there, you go fight this big boss, and then you've won the day. And some of them were multi-part. The 3 giant modules are renowned for that. And the idea was you would be in a tournament. You'd have pre-generated characters. You'd play in the first part. You'd do the best you can. There would be many groups playing. The groups that did the best would advance to the next round of the tournament. They would play in the second part. And in some cases, even if they didn't finish the first part, but just did better than those that finished even worse, play in the second part, and you'd go as far as you can, and then a certain number, as with all tournaments, would advance to the third round, play in the third part. And there was a continuing story developed through the different rounds of the adventuring. And it was written to be a certain way, so it had a sort of narrative flow. But some other things that were on offer back in those days were more like mini settings, such as Caverns of Thracia. They were set up to be visited multiple times to be a adventuring location near a town where a group might be able to resupply in between adventures into this large complex, and exploring it multiple times and discovering what was there and why it was there and what could be hauled away from it was what the gaming was all about. And the mini settings like this, they were not set up to be linear. They might have some backstory to them. They might have some interesting aspects that could be discovered while exploring them. But at the end of the day, that was not necessarily what an adventuring group might have chosen to do by exploring it once or multiple times. They could just be going in there to clear out the monsters and gather the treasure and become wealthy and higher leveled and more powerful, that is to say, in the mind of the characters. And Jennell, her early work, this, Night of the Walking Wet, any number of other things she worked on became synonymous with that sort of non-linear adventuring that people could do. And much respect. What she was doing at the time was creating things that many of us early adopters of the game thought was the way we played. Sure, there were tournaments and you could go play in those, and those were expected to be sort of linear scene to scene to scene to scene sort of explored situations, but when you were playing in your campaign settings, these were locations that you could go visit, different areas of the world on the map, and you could visit them multiple times. Maybe some of them were, over your head, a little too powerful, and you would go to other ones for a while first until you became, as a group, strong enough to go and visit the ones that were tougher. And then you'd go to those multiple times until you cleared them out. And then you'd find some bigger challenge for the group to go and explore. Let's have a quick look over at this here. There was a time when Judges Guild... What's great is she also did some of the artwork, right? When Judges Guild products were created and approved for use with Dungeons and Dragons. $6.50 for this little thing. And also there was a time, lovely, when these adventures, these gaming aids, as they call this one and others, were available in PDF form on DriveThruRPG. And then any number of things happened between the current steward of Judges Guild, the son of the original owner, making many horribly bigoted statements online, called out for it. People stopped doing business with him, did not want to be associated with him, and that included him getting his company banned from DriveThruRPG, and rightfully so. I have no argument against that myself. I'm definitely of a mind they did the right thing, as did Rob Conley, Bat in the Attic. You can read more about the fallout there. He was creating fresh, cleaner, more extensive maps of the Wilderlands campaign that Judges Guild did, and Goodman Games which was creating a version of this, and also had already created versions of the City-State of the Invincible Overlord and some other early Judges Guild offerings. Pulled out, had some contract issues, got back involved, was dealing with a Kickstarter, a blown Kickstarter that had been done by Judges Guild, and had some contractual obligations to help them settle that up. That's how they got the original contract to redo these things. But they did these 5th edition versions. There was a 3rd edition of Caverns of Thracia. So if you look on eBay, you'll probably see, and even up to 2010, when versions of this original, which is really a 1st edition, had written to be used with 1st edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. If you look this up, you'll see that couple $100, $250, $300 to get a copy of this off of eBay. The 3rd edition one, you might be able to find some copies of that. The 5th edition one was supposed to come out this year, and then all of that fallout happened earlier this year. And I'm not sure if that's... I think there's a few available on eBay, so you have to look for it if you're really looking to do that. I mean, they'd all be bought from secondhand sources anyway, so you don't have to worry about passing money on to someone whose views you don't agree with. Let's get back to it. So there's a sort of a ancient Thracia, obviously, call back to ancient times. I'm personally of a mind, as some know, that I use Tartarus as my name for an underground. It's twofold, obviously. It's a Greek, ancient Greek, what the ancient Greeks called the underground, underworld, and one of my buddies who was our DM growing up had a big dungeon that he called Tantalus, so it's also a nod to that. And a lot of the influence of early gaming materials came from the idea that sure, it's a medieval fantasy setting, and it would be anachronistic to have ancient references in there. But if you think about it from the idea that there was a civilization that came before, that they were still learning from, stuff that had ideas, knowledge that had been lost, in the case of a campaign world, a medieval fantasy campaign world, maybe items, treasures that were long lost underground in the ruins of an ancient civilization. This one, that one, could be multiple ones. This one based on Greek mythology and stuff. There are beast men, there are minotaurs in this, there are lizard men, there are lizard folk, lizard creatures, lizard man patrols. Let me see if we can bring this back up again. See that gnoll patrols, lizard men patrols, so on and so forth. Multiple levels, and they're pretty extensive. I won't show everything with this because I don't want to be popping in the spoilers, but there's a few things I want to get into. Lizardmen Shaman, Old Stone Bridge, Officers of the Guard, 79, there's the date there. And nice little forward. Caverns of Thracia is the first in a series of Dungeons and Adventure scenarios designed and illustrated entirely by Jennell Jaquays for use with TSR's original Dungeons and Dragons. First edition, really, too, right? Rules, systems. The content of this adventure may need to be changed by the individual referee to suit the campaign he or she moderates. This product has been approved by TSR for use with Dungeons & Dragons. No similarity between any of the names, characters, persons, or institutions in this publication with those of any living or dead person, and so on and so forth. The usual disclaimer. Jennell's designer notes through here are fascinating and fun. I won't read each and every one of them. We don't want to run on too long. We're already a little over. But I will say that she's very careful to make sure that she makes no mistake that this is in the hands of the referee. And as a mini setting, you need to be in control of how it's presented so that it suits your world. There's a short history. Again, history is not provided to give the players a background on the history of the caverns. As far as the players are concerned, the caverns are part of lost civilizations that disappeared centuries before. Little is known of them, except possibly its location and a few wild stories. There's a tavern section. And instead, the history is provided to give the referee a historical index of various events that occurred in development of the cavern societies. It will also include an overview of the cultural development of the early Thracian civilizations. So, you know what? I'm going to leave that at that and just say that the extensive detail into the background of this makes it much easier for a DM to run, because then they have a firm grounding in why this place exists, what happened to it over a year. There's a history of the various minions and creatures that reside there now, resided there over the years, their own religious proclivities, cultish activities in some cases. So, it's all good grist for the mill. It's good for a DM to have that sort of information, even if it's not going to get shared in-game with the players. Certainly, a DM is welcome to. It's there for them to use as they see fit when running this in their setting. So there you go. Jennell Jaquays' day yesterday, and this adventure written by her is a good example. If you ever see one on a thrift store bookshelf or someplace and it's reasonably priced, grab it. You will not regret getting a look at this history, but also getting a look at a well-constructed, essentially mini setting for early Dungeons and Dragons. And if you read through this, you will definitely get a feel for how old school games were run back in the day and how many, many, many of them are run in this day and age. You'll see a lot of videos online saying, this is the old school way, and old school renaissance, and old school revival, and all of these other terms and stuff. Well, old school rules is the OSR acronym I prefer, and this used the old rules and was written to be used with the old rules, and the way it is constructed will show you a lot about how games like that were run back in the day. If you ever want to get a feel for that, reading some things like this will help you better grasp that. So there you go. Ooh, wow, we're well over time. I rambled so much today, but I came on late, and so rambling, why not go long? This has been the OK Grogdart Show's look at the Caverns of Thracia from Jennell Jaquays on the day after Jennell Jaquays' Day, where we honor her, and looking at Caverns of Thracia. This show streams live on Twitch each Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central, and then it's archived on YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, give a comment. Constructive criticism is always welcome and appreciated. And you can support the channel even at the free level on Patreon and join such illustrious joiners, people that help support the show, such as Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games, who's currently having a Halloween sale. Look that up. Color Slicing with Castle Entertainment recently had a module come out. Check that out. Heath Varnon of the D&D 20, who just got back from a convention. Dave O'Brien, unauthorized user. Dethangel Shadow. Heidi and Eric Gygax Garland of Gaxland. Vince Ragusa of the Maroon Room prog rock band. They've got some more singles coming out soon. Daniel Caldwell of Griffin and Gargoyle. Martin Thomas of Daddy Rolled a One, the YouTube channel extraordinaire that, by the way, I mentioned last week, has a good video on Jennell's career in tabletop gaming. Christian Garcia, Stephanie Lesniewski-Gruchow, Cera Toppilopkus, Colin Szablewski, and, as always, Shane Bradley, DM Extraordinaire. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.